Conservation and Development's 35-day requirement and implement any, if it does pass on the November ballot, we need to make it through our plan amendment process in order for it to be adopted by January. So we will enter into as if we're gonna move through the process. However, we will, if it does not pass, it's prohibited in the end of the election, then we will withdraw.
Yours is already done.
So it's just kind of in draft form to get us through the process in the event it does, and if it doesn't, then we won't.
We're prepared.
We're prepared.
Yes.
Yep.
Good job
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, so in reviewing the legislative code amendments, I mean, did you guys see anything? I mean, or have you in the last few years thought of anything different? You know, looking even at the state of Oregon's website, they have only issued 28 service centers licenses in the state of Oregon and 12 manufacturers. So it seems like it was this big thing, but to me, that seems like a very low number.
I think it is a low number. I saw something on, I think it was on my cell phone about Oregon passing that. And there wasn't that many people going for it right now, so
Yeah.
remains to be seen, I guess.
And a lot of, looking at the ballot measures, where we did that temporary ban, a lot of people 2 years ago went just straight forward with that permanent ban. And now, I mean, there's just a handful of jurisdictions going back and on the November ballot, putting that permanent ban.
Very good. Very good. Well done. Any other questions, gentlemen?
So,
Explanatory.
yeah, so.
Pretty much.
So Tom, to clarify, you're putting this in your book. So like Christy said, we'll just start that process. We obviously have to get it going because of our legality timelines. And then depending on the November election, either continue with it or we'll withdraw the application.
Yeah, so until it goes, so these type of application processes or approval processes, after you guys do your approval, it's recommended to city council, and then there's 2 readings of ordinances before the city council. Long before you ever, and then it's 30 days after that, then it goes in those books. So you're talking 60 to 90-day process before it would be adopted if it goes that far.
So this is gonna be on the ballot November 5th.
So this here, is this gonna stay permanent no matter what happens? You withdraw it. What if later they pass it?
If they pass it, then we are prepared and have already started that process, and these are the rules that will be in our development code come January 2nd.
So I guess by putting a conditional use in there, you're technically saying it's legal.
It's legal, but it's through a conditional use permit, and that's what two years ago, it was recommended by council and by the planning commission that you guys want to be able to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're defeated.
That's gone.
Then it won't even go into your development code. It'd be like marijuana,
Why
how
not
it's,
just keep it there? That's what I'm not understanding. Why not just keep it there and if it does pass, it's there.
So use marijuana, for example. So we went through the same process. And when they decided to prohibit it, we pulled it all out. So then it's in our municipal code that flat out it's prohibited in our city. So it doesn't get to the development code because it's prohibited.
Okay.
but I think council has wanted the voters. They didn't want to make that choice just their body. They wanted the voters of Sutherland to say yes or no.
Okay.
So that's why it's going on the ballot instead of just it's been on there. Cause I mean, council could have said 2 years ago, let's just put it in the development code. But they didn't want to take that, they wanted it to hear from the people.
Because the only other thing is if we put it in the development code and put an end for not permitted in there in the end. But we would just stop the process and not use staff time anymore to go through the adoption process of that if it's not necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Just curious, did the state ever come up with any guidelines or are they still working on? Like as to what's permitted and where and when? you know, from these centers?
They have, like, looking at their website, some very strict rules and requirements and training for even to be a facilitator.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big checklist of things you have to go through to even get a license. They're
So they'd have to get a license before they.
a
can
license,
set anything
yes,
up.
even a license is a $10,000 annual fee through the state.
And it has to be specific to the location where they apply.
I would believe so, but I didn't read that far into it.
Okay.
But yeah, the state has some pretty strict rules. To become either a manufacturer, a facilitator, a service center,
So they have broken it down into like the,
Mhm.
the, I don't know how to break it up.
Different categories.
So, yeah, so is it just the two categories like they were talking
More
about
than two.
before, or did they add?
they have a facilitator license, they have a manufacturer. Service center, there was a few others, like
Okay,
maybe,
So there's a bunch of different
Yeah.
categories that could try, 'cause I think when we talked about it before, there were only two, there was the.
Yeah.
The service center and the manufacturing facility, so they've added more since then.
Or at least broke them out into smaller
small,
licenses or something.
yeah, subcategories of,
But this would put it in the development code, so then it applies to the land use where their stuff might not apply to the land use. And that's kind of, we don't wanna be caught blindsided if it was approved, because then all we have is the state's guidelines to go off of, and we don't get to set the time, place, manner. Scenario, which, you know, you don't want it next to your schools or the residential, and some of those are statutory, and some of them we would adopt based on the approval process.
Yeah.
So this would just develop it into our land use code that applies the land use restrictions of where it can go, what zoning, how close proximity. If we want a stricter policy than what the state allows, we have to go through this.
Well, the only reason I was asking is because the manufacturing facilities are obviously gonna be a different setup than the, you know,
Distribution.
the distribution facilities, so. Are the same guidelines gonna apply to the manufacturing as they would the distribution?
As far as staying away from
Staying
things.
away
Yeah,
from things?
yeah, so both,
What-
all across the board, we put those same
Same
requirements.
requirements, same restrictions.
Now,
And
looking-
laboratory was another category that the state created too.
Yeah, that one wasn't on there before.
Are we going to see this? If it passes, does it still come through us again?
In November,
And
yes.
then we'll have to vote on it? Or is it
Yeah, you'd make a recommendation. to city-
recommendation?
To city council,
Okay, and that would be in November after the election?
Right.
yes.
Probably. Well, December, November 4th is voting.
That is November fifth.
Yeah,
November 5th.
November 5th, right.
Council's gonna do emergency second reading.
So we want to put some more into it or take out or whatever.
Yeah, so if, I mean, have you, hopefully you guys reviewed it.
Yes,
Did you have any suggestions or any?
Good. It really covers, I'm not kidding you, pretty well.
Yeah, and when you really look at the map and the way Sutherlin is laid out, it's.
Yeah.
It's fairly difficult. City,
So each city does their own thing, but what about just county land?
county does the same as well. Yeah, so in 2022, it was on the ballot in every city and Douglas County.
Is there one close to us that that meets all these requirements?
A jurisdiction that it was passed in,
Or a facility.
Yeah.
I
I'm just curious.
the majority of them, I mean, cause this is all the,
he's asking if something's been built.
I know, that's what I was just looking to see if anyone. I don't know off the top of my head.
I think any of them have been farther in the bigger cities up north,
Metropolitan area.
yeah, are the only ones that I've heard about.
Probably
but
Portland,
but just because I haven't heard about this.
always first, you know. Portland.
Yeah, cause Portland is not on the list that even put it on the ballot for temporary
Mhm.
ban.
Interesting.
Did they, I wonder if they put them to vote up there too.
It didn't sound like Portland might have.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, the city council made the call,
Yeah,
and so each jurisdiction. It would be up to their council.
very good.
So if this goes to vote on the fifth and it fails terribly, then it's a moot point.
Right.
Your duties are done.
What's that?
They just stopped working on it, that's all.
Yeah.
We submit a notice of withdrawal to DLCD.
Any more questions, gentlemen? Very good. Monthly activity report, has everyone had a chance to review enclosed monthly activity report? Yes.
Everyone notice Ford's Pond is done.
Excellent. I have a desk.
Oh, you're.
Frisbee.
Really,
Ping pong paddle. That's what
That's a huge accomplishment.
my scooter's like it, my cockle too, he likes that.
Any questions on the activity report?
Everybody okay with that? Okay, thank you very much. I have a public comment to make. If I may, please. The purpose of the public comment is to allow citizens to present information regarding items off the agenda. A time limit of 3 minutes per citizen shall apply. So we're making sure that the 3 minutes. I recognize that you, as a commissioner or as a staff member, want to provide information to the public during the public comment portion in order to allow everyone the opportunity to participate and have their 3 minutes. I ask you, the commission and staff, not to speak, respond, or interrupt when someone is speaking. Any questions?
And then, is there any public comment?
Okay. Now, we have some guests out in the audience. You want to come up to the podium over here?
Did you guys want
Yeah,
to be?
3 minutes? You want to
Oh,
talk?
no, we were just,
just
from the, the last month, regarding.
You're from last. How long you been sitting there?
That's right, that's right. I wasn't sure if I need to show up today or not, so I thought, well, let's just show up, and we found it interesting last month, so I thought, we thought, well, let's just show up again.
Good to have you. You enjoy that.
Yeah,
Good to have a little audience and
Yeah.
sometimes, you know what I mean? Any commissioner comments?
No.
I have none. Adjournment. And let's state the time. That was a little faster than my meeting earlier, I think.
Faster than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I'll accept that.